The world does not reward noise. It rewards direction. Most men spend their days chasing motion and mistaking it for progress. They mistake emotion for conviction, activity for achievement, and excitement for purpose. But I tell you this truth. Only the mind that has learned to govern its inner climate can govern its outer circumstances. Until you rule your own thoughts, you will be ruled by them. Until you detach yourself from the whims of feeling, you will be the servant of everything that provokes you. Great fortunes, great discoveries, and great civilizations have never been the offspring of frenzy. They were conceived in clarity, nursed in discipline, and brought forth through purpose. The first conquest of every empire is the conquest of self. The first victory in every battle of destiny is the silencing of confusion. To master your emotions is to cut the leash from every circumstance that ever held you back. Every human being is born with two kingdoms, the inner and the outer. The outer is loud, filled with interruptions, expectations, and applause. The inner is silent, obedient only to the law of thought. Success belongs to the man who learns to live in the inner kingdom while commanding the outer. When emotion dictates action, results are accidental. But when disciplined thought directs emotion, results become inevitable. You have heard the phrase, think and grow rich. Many repeat it, few understand it. To think is not to worry, to think is not to drift. To think is to choose deliberately the ideas you will allow to dominate your consciousness. Every thought carries a vibration, and every vibration seeks expression in the physical world. If your thoughts are fevered with anger or envy, the outer world will mirror your turmoil. But if your thoughts are anchored in definiteness of purpose, the world bends to accommodate your vision. Look around you. Most lives are lived in reaction. A word, a glance, a disappointment, each pulls the strings of emotion, and the man becomes a puppet dancing to the rhythm of circumstance. Yet the disciplined individual moves differently. He feels emotion, but is not owned by it. He hears the noise of the crowd, but listens only to the voice of his purpose. His calmness is not weakness, it is power harnessed. The calm man governs where the excitable man obeys. Without it, you are a wanderer in a world of confusion. With it, you become a magnet around which all things arrange themselves. A definite purpose is not a wish. It is a chosen direction welded to emotion by decision. The average man drifts because he never decides precisely what he wants. He speaks in generalities. I want success, I want happiness. But life does not respond to vague petitions. It answers specific commands. The mind, like the soil, returns only what is clearly planted. A definite goal, once accepted by the subconscious mind, gathers invisible allies, ideas, people, and opportunities to fulfill itself. But definiteness alone is not enough. The flame of purpose, if not disciplined, becomes a wildfire that consumes its holder. You must learn self-discipline, the second great pillar. Discipline is the art of keeping promises you made to yourself long after the mood has passed. Discipline is the guardian of purpose. It keeps the gates of the mind secure against the invasion of doubt. Emotion screams, discipline whispers, hold the line. Every empire of achievement stands upon this quiet strength. The undisciplined man says, I felt angry, so I spoke. The disciplined man says, I felt angry, so I paused. That pause is civilization. That pause is mastery. Reaction is the child of chaos. Response is the mark of control. When you master the pause, you master the world. Understand this. Emotion is energy. It is neither good nor evil. It is potential. To suppress it is folly, but to channel it is genius. The leader, the artist, the builder, they all possess emotion, but they direct it toward creation, not confusion. The mind, detached and observant, becomes the engineer of this force. He does not drown in feeling, he converts it into fuel. There exists a law of mental neutrality. It states that the mind, when calm, becomes a perfect instrument of reasoning, but when stirred by unchecked emotion, becomes distorted like a mirror in stormy water. Accurate thinking is impossible in emotional turbulence. Therefore, to achieve mastery in any field, you must learn to return to neutrality before deciding, before speaking, before acting. The calm mind sees truth. The excited mind sees illusion. Consider the sailor who sets out to sea. He cannot command the wind, but he can adjust the sails. The wind is emotion, the sail is discipline. The sea obeys no man, yet the man who knows his instruments reaches his destination. So it is with the mind. You cannot prevent feeling, but you can direct it. You cannot silence the world, but you can govern your response to it. Every success principle rests upon this foundation. Self-control is the keystone of greatness. Without it, genius becomes erratic, wealth becomes a burden, and influence becomes tyranny. The man who cannot rule himself invites others to rule him. He becomes a slave to every mood, every insult, every distraction. But the man who remains calm in chaos is the rare one the world calls leader. Now we come to the third pillar, autosuggestion. You are not merely influenced by the world around you, you are shaped continuously by the world within you. The words you speak to yourself become commands to the subconscious mind, and that mind obeys without argument. Speak carelessly, and you program failure. Speak deliberately, and you engrave victory. Each thought repeated becomes belief, and each belief becomes behavior. Therefore, guard your inner dialogue as you would guard a treasury. Tell yourself daily, I am master of my emotions. I am captain of my fate because I command my thoughts. Repeat it, not as a chant of hope, but as a declaration of authority. You are not attempting to convince the universe. You are reminding it of who you already are. The subconscious does not reason, it accepts. It does not choose, it executes. So choose for it, command it, direct it. If you allow the chatter of fear, envy, or resentment to occupy your mind, your subconscious will turn those into reality. But if you hold firmly to the vibration of confidence, calmness, and purpose, your subconscious will carve the path to match it. The mind, like clay, takes the impression of the thought most often pressed upon it. Let us explore mastery over emotion, the next great law of success. The man who rules emotion rules destiny. Every failure begins as a mismanaged feeling, anger unbridled, fear unchecked, desire uncontrolled. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is not circumstance but command. When an insult comes, does it ignite or does it pass? When fear whispers, do you yield or stand still? The emotionally reactive man forfeits his throne. The emotionally disciplined man ascends it. You must learn the distinction between reaction and response. Reaction is reflex, response is reason. Reaction is driven by the lower nature that seeks survival. Response emerges from the higher self that seeks creation. Every great mind, from the conquerors of nations to the builders of industry, has possessed the rare ability to pause between impulse and action. That pause is where wisdom speaks. Hill once wrote, "The person who cannot control his emotions cannot control his destiny." When you lash out in anger, you spend mental currency that could have built empires. When you indulge resentment, you invite failure's companion, self-pity. Emotional control is not repression, it is redirection. It is the art of turning turbulence into thrust, pain into precision, desire into discipline. The road to mastery demands solitude, not the loneliness of isolation, but the solitude of clarity. The noise of the world will always tempt you. People will urge you to react, to defend, to argue, to prove, resist. Nothing disarms chaos like composure. When you remain calm, confusion exhausts itself. When you stand silent in strength, falsehood collapses without your assistance. Let us turn to accurate thinking. Thought to be effective must be clean. Most minds are polluted with assumptions, emotions, and borrowed opinions. Accurate thinking demands evidence. It asks, is this fact or is it belief? Is this reaction or is it reason? The successful man does not accept impressions as truth. He dissects them, weighs them, and decides only after the emotion has cooled. Emotion fogs logic, and logic without calm is blind. Therefore, detach before you decide. The detached thinker is the only thinker who can be just. You must realize that mastery of the mind is not achieved through willpower alone, but through order. Willpower is the sword. Discipline is the sheath that guides it. Without order, willpower cuts indiscriminately. Set your mind in order. Begin each day by reaffirming your purpose, by recalling the image of your desired outcome, and by declaring emotional neutrality toward everything that would disturb your peace. Calmness is not passivity, it is concentrated strength. To remain calm under pressure is the rarest and most profitable of all human abilities. When others lose direction, the calm man sees opportunity. When markets fall, when friends doubt, when storms gather, he remains the axis around which all else spins. His stillness becomes gravity. His certainty becomes magnetism. Remember this law. Detachment leads to power. Power leads to peace. Peace leads to precision. And precision leads to success. When you detach from the need to control outcomes, you gain control over yourself. And that is the only control that ever matters. To react is to surrender. To observe is to reign. Now ask yourself, who truly commands your life, your will, or your emotions? The answer determines your future. Every action taken from impulse is a withdrawal from your bank of wisdom. Every action taken from purpose is a deposit toward success. Emotions are valuable servants but terrible masters. Train them, direct them. Let desire fuel you, not rule you. Let ambition inspire, not enslave. Let passion obey purpose, not oppose it. The mind must be trained as an athlete trains the body. It must be disciplined, fed properly, and rested in silence. Mental discipline is built by small victories, rising when you said you would rise, completing what you promised yourself to complete, refusing to indulge every passing mood. Each such victory adds a brick to the fortress of self-control. There will come days when your emotions rebel, when discouragement knocks and fear whispers that all effort is vain. On those days, remember this truth. Persistence is the child of discipline. Hold to your purpose even when the fire burns low. The man who persists calmly outlasts the storm. Emotion fades, principle endures. Purpose is the North Star of the disciplined mind. It gives direction to energy and meaning to struggle. A man without purpose is a ship without a compass, moved by every wave, seduced by every current, wrecked by every storm. But the man with purpose moves with quiet confidence through every chaos, because he knows not only where he is going, but why. Purpose gives courage its reason and patience its reward. To live by purpose is to become selective with attention. You no longer feed every emotion, you feed only what aligns with your goal. You no longer chase approval, you chase mastery. You no longer respond to criticism, you respond to principle. And in doing so, you conserve the greatest energy known to man-focused thought. Focused thought is the alchemy of success. When directed through purpose and fortified by detachment, it becomes a laser that cuts through every obstacle. The unfocused mind disperses its light across trivialities. The focused mind burns through mountains. Concentration is born of detachment, for only the detached can ignore distraction. The attached mind clings. The detached mind commands. Understand this. Success is a science, not a secret. The formula is ancient. Definite purpose plus self-discipline plus emotional mastery equals achievement inevitable. The world may change its technology, but it never changes its laws. The same discipline that built pyramids builds corporations. The same detachment that guided philosophers guides innovators. The inner world precedes the outer, always. You may protest, but I am emotional by nature. So was every conqueror until he learned control. Nature gives you energy, wisdom gives it direction. Emotion is the raw material of greatness, but without discipline it remains unrefined ore. The furnace of purpose and the mold of detachment turn it into gold. If you would rise above mediocrity, learn the discipline of stillness. It is in stillness that the subconscious mind receives instruction, that intuition whispers its guidance, that auto-suggestion takes root. Most men never hear the voice of their inner genius because they never stop talking long enough to listen. Silence is the language of mastery. In silence, you align your thoughts with universal intelligence, and that intelligence rearranges circumstances in your favor. The great minds of history, Edison, Carnegie, Ford, were not merely industrious, they were internally ordered. Their outward achievements were shadows cast by inner equilibrium. Each faced doubt, failure, and ridicule, yet none surrendered to emotion. They learned that emotion wastes energy, but calmness compounds it. They moved not by reaction, but by rhythm, not by frenzy, but by focus. To control your inner world is to free yourself from external tyranny. No one can make you angry without your consent. No one can insult you without your participation. No one can defeat you without your surrender. The moment you realize this, you step into unshakable freedom. You cease to be at the mercy of circumstance and become the architect of destiny. Freedom begins the moment you accept absolute responsibility for your emotional state. Responsibility is not a burden, it is liberty. When you blame others, you hand them the strings of your mind. But when you say, "My reaction is mine to command," you cut those strings forever. This is the first act of leadership, self-leadership. Before a man may command armies, industries, or nations, he must command his moods. Every day offers you a battlefield smaller than the world, but greater in consequence, the battlefield of the mind. There, every thought is a soldier, every emotion a weapon, every decision a declaration of war or peace. The undisciplined man allows confusion to lead his army. He loses before he fights. The disciplined man places purpose at the front and order behind. He wins before the battle begins. If you wish to understand mastery, observe nature. The river is powerful not because it resists the landscape, but because it stays the course. It bends where it must, but its direction never changes. Its patience carves canyons. Its constancy shapes continents. Such is the power of inner control. Passion ungoverned is like flood water destructive. Passion governed by discipline is the river creative, unstoppable, inevitable. Let us speak now of the principle of controlled response. Between stimulus and reaction lies the interval of choice. Within that interval dwells your greatness. The average mind collapses that interval. It fires before it aims. The mastermind expands it. In that silence between impulse and response, he asks, "Does this serve my purpose? Does this strengthen my position?" If the answer is no, he withholds energy. This habit, once formed, becomes power incarnate. All progress, mental or material, depends on directing energy. Energy follows attention. Attention follows emotion. Therefore, whoever commands emotion commands destiny. Most men allow emotion to scatter attention like wind scattering leaves. But the wise man gathers emotion and harnesses it as a builder harnesses light through a lens. Focus converts intensity into creation. You will notice that those who accomplish greatly often appear detached. They are not cold, they are clear. They see events as chess players see the board, every piece in motion, but every move deliberate. Detachment is not indifference. It is perspective. It is the distance that permits accuracy. The detached thinker feels deeply, but is not enslaved by feeling. He can act with compassion without being consumed by sentiment, decide with logic without losing humanity. The world admires confidence, yet misunderstands its origin. Confidence is not arrogance. It is the byproduct of obedience to one's own principles. When you live by internal law, the opinion of others loses its tyranny. Approval ceases to be fuel. It becomes ornament. The disciplined man acts not to impress, but to express. His motive is inner direction, not outer validation. This is emotional independence, the rarest wealth in the world. Now, understand that detachment is developed, not inherited. It begins with observation. Start by watching yourself as though you were another person. See how often you react without awareness, how quickly a tone or word can shift your energy. Each observation is a thread in the rope of control. Awareness creates distance. Distance breeds choice, and choice is mastery. When you can look at your anger instead of through it, you are no longer its victim. Practice this. When emotion rises, breathe once before speaking, twice before deciding, thrice before concluding. Those 3 breaths are the difference between chaos and command. The untrained mind believes speed is strength. The trained mind knows stillness is power. The arrow that strikes truest is the one released from perfect calm. Self-discipline is not denial of pleasure. It is denial of weakness. It means doing what you decided to do, whether you feel like it or not. Emotion asks, "What do I want now?" Discipline asks, "What will matter later?" Between those questions stands destiny. The man who answers the second builds empires. The man who answers the first builds excuses. Consider the builder who measures twice and cuts once. Impatience calls it slowness. Wisdom calls it precision. Life rewards the builder who measures his thoughts before he acts. Rash decisions may bring momentary satisfaction but long regret. Calm deliberation may appear slow. yet it creates permanence. Remember, speed is useful only when direction is certain. Let us approach the law of purposeful emotion. Emotion is creative energy seeking direction. It will build or destroy according to the instruction it receives. Every time you feel anger, imagine holding fire. Every time you feel love, imagine holding sunlight. Both can burn or illuminate depending on how you use them. When you direct emotion through definite purpose, you become a conscious creator. When you allow emotion to drift without aim, you become a creature of circumstance. Detach not only from the reactions of others, but from the praise of others. Compliments are pleasant but poisonous if they make you complacent. Criticism is painful but priceless if it keeps you sharp. The man who is moved by either too deeply loses control of his equilibrium. Praise and blame are merely weather. Principle is climate. A great tree does not bend for every gust of wind. It grows roots instead. To govern emotion, feed the intellect, study, reflect, analyze. Knowledge expands the interval between impulse and action. The more you understand, the slower you react, and the slower you react, the more accurate you become. Ignorance breeds reactivity. Wisdom breeds restraint. The thinker is rarely angry because he sees causes where others see insults. Accurate thinking requires mental hygiene. Each morning, sweep the mind of yesterday's noise. Review your dominant thoughts. Ask, are these aligned with my chief aim? If not, replace them deliberately. The mind abhors a vacuum. Fill it with purpose before the world fills it with distraction. Mental discipline is not achieved once it is maintained daily, like physical fitness. You will notice a pattern among achievers. They maintain emotional economy. They do not spend feeling on trivial matters. They do not argue over opinions or gossip about personalities. They conserve enthusiasm for creation, courage for obstacles, passion for ideals. They refuse to invest emotion where no return is possible. The wise know that attention is currency. They spend it only on value. There is also the principle of mental substitution. You cannot eliminate a thought by resisting it. You can only replace it. When fear intrudes, summon faith. When doubt speaks, summon decision. When anger rises, summon understanding. Each emotion has its antidote within the same mind that created it. The disciplined man keeps these antidotes near. Let us speak of definiteness of purpose once more, for it is the compass that prevents detachment from becoming drift. A calm man without direction becomes idle. A purposeful man without calm becomes reckless. Combine the two, and you have genius in motion, quiet power, patient persistence, imperturbable focus. Purpose gives discipline its reason. Discipline gives purpose its strength. Together, they create invincibility. In the pursuit of mastery, beware of subtle enemies. The first is self-pity, which whispers that your struggle is unfair. The second is resentment, which poisons effort with bitterness. The third is impatience, which demands harvest before sowing. Each is emotional sabotage disguised as self-concern. The antidote is gratitude, the discipline of recognizing progress while pursuing perfection. Gratitude neutralizes emotional corrosion. It keeps ambition clean. Do not confuse detachment with suppression. Suppression buries emotion alive. Detachment releases it, transformed. The man who suppresses anger becomes hard. The man who detaches from anger becomes wise. One freezes emotion, the other refines it. Detachment is not numbness, it is clarity. It is seeing the flame without being burned. To master the inner world, you must respect the law of rhythm. Everything moves in cycles, energy, motivation, emotion. When enthusiasm wanes, do not despair. It is the tide receding before the next wave. The disciplined mind works while waiting. The reactive mind quits at low tide and calls it failure. Success belongs to those who keep rowing until the water returns. Now we approach the power of calmness. Calmness is the cradle of great ideas. When your mind is still, inspiration can find you. You cannot receive intuition through turbulence. You cannot catch reflection on disturbed water. Calmness is the atmosphere of genius. Learn to enter it at will. A single moment of calm awareness can save years of chaotic effort. Cultivate inner silence each day. Withdraw from noise, from haste, from the opinions of the crowd. Sit quietly and command the mind. Be still. At first it will rebel. It will chatter like an unruly servant. Persist. Each session strengthens control. Eventually, the mind obeys instantly. When you can still your thoughts at will, you possess the highest form of power, the ability to choose awareness over reaction. In moments of decision, remember, emotion shouts, intuition whispers. The loudest voice is seldom the truest. Calmness reveals intuition because calmness removes interference. It tunes the mind to the frequency of truth. To the calm mind, solutions appear that frenzy could never find. Let us consider personal initiative. Detachment without initiative leads to stagnation. Once you are calm, act decisively. The disciplined mind is not slow, it is precise. It strikes like a well-aimed arrow, swift, silent, certain. Initiative converts potential energy into progress. But initiative without emotional control is reckless. It wastes more than it wins. Therefore, alternate rest with action, contemplation with creation, rhythm, not reaction, is mastery. Every successful individual carries an inner governor that regulates emotion before it spills into speech. This self-government is the essence of maturity. Children cry for every discomfort. Kings measure their words. The disciplined man is king over his moods. He can be insulted and remain courteous, pressured and remain patient, praised and remain humble. Such composure is not inborn. It is earned through daily self-command. There exists a law seldom spoken but always operative, the law of internal causation. It states that every outer condition is preceded by an inner cause. To change circumstances, change states of mind. To attract opportunity, cultivate readiness. To dissolve conflict, establish peace within. The outer world is but a projection of the inner screen. Adjust the projector, and the picture changes. This understanding frees you from complaint. You no longer waste thought blaming environment, society, or fortune. You become cause, not effect. Responsibility becomes joy because it restores control. You begin to see failure not as punishment, but as feedback, a mirror reflecting an inner adjustment still required. Thus, emotion no longer signals doom, but direction. The journey of discipline is endless because consciousness expands infinitely. Each victory reveals a higher battlefield. Mastering anger leads to mastering fear. Mastering fear leads to mastering desire. Mastering desire leads to mastering thought itself. The summit of success is not wealth or fame. It is serenity, the unshakable peace that comes when nothing external can disturb your internal order. Do not misinterpret serenity as stagnation. A calm sea reflects the sky but still contains tremendous depth and movement beneath. Serenity is dynamic equilibrium. It is not withdrawal from life, but perfect engagement without entanglement. The mastermind participates fully, yet remains free. As you progress, you will feel temptations greater than before, the temptation to prove your superiority, to assert control over others, to indulge in pride. Beware, pride is emotion disguised as virtue. It seeks validation for mastery instead of service through mastery. True detachment includes detachment from the need to be admired for detachment. The highest discipline is humility, the knowledge that mastery over self makes you servant of many. Let your success be silent and your influence thunderous. The world does not need more noise, it needs more example. Emotional discipline is not something you declare, it is something you demonstrate. Your composure in crisis will teach louder than your lectures. Your steadiness under pressure will convert doubters faster than argument. Therefore, make calmness your constant companion. Let every disappointment remind you to detach. Every victory remind you to stay humble. Every criticism remind you to think accurately. Live as the observer behind the actor, guiding each performance with deliberate awareness. The drama of life continues, but you remain director, not character. The disciplined mind walks through life as a sculptor moves through marble. Each blow is measured. Each strike serves the vision. To the untrained, the marble appears as ruined chips and dust. To the master, it is creation in progress. So too with emotional detachment. To the undisciplined, restraint seems cold. To the wise, it is the heat of focus directed through purpose. You cannot build greatness without first destroying illusion. The first illusion to fall is that success depends on external approval. The applause of others may sweeten achievement, but it does not sustain it. No throne built upon opinion stands for long. Only the man who draws validation from within can endure opposition without corrosion. When approval ceases to be oxygen, you have learned to breathe self-reliance. There is another illusion, that emotional intensity equals depth. Many mistake turbulence for passion, but passion, when pure, is steady as a current beneath the ocean's surface. It moves mountains of water without noise. True intensity is controlled energy. A furnace without walls consumes itself. A furnace with walls powers cities. Emotional discipline builds those walls. If you would achieve mastery, study the great paradox. Detachment creates connection. The detached mind listens better, sees clearer, acts truer. Emotion clouds perception. Calm reveals essence. When you detach from self-interest, you perceive reality uncolored by desire, and therefore you make decisions aligned with truth, not impulse. Detachment does not remove compassion, it refines it. Only the detached can love purely, because love unbound by possession liberates both giver and receiver. Now consider the principle of directed imagination. The subconscious mind obeys the dominant picture held in consciousness. But pictures change shape under emotional distortion. Fear magnifies obstacles, greed shrinks reason, anger blinds proportion. Therefore, before impressing any image upon the subconscious, still the emotion that distorts it. The calm mind visualizes accurately, and accurate vision materializes faithfully. A man who imagines in serenity builds worlds that last. Train yourself each morning to enter the state of controlled neutrality. Before confronting the world, confront the self. Ask, what mood governs me? Replace it consciously. Emotion should report to purpose as a soldier reports to a general. Begin the day with deliberate instruction to the subconscious. I command calmness, clarity, and confidence. This mental ritual forms a protective atmosphere through which external chaos cannot penetrate. The undisciplined rush into the day like unarmored warriors, every arrow of irritation pierces them. The disciplined enter armed with awareness, arrows fall harmlessly. Emotional detachment is not avoidance of life, it is armor for engagement. The calm man participates fully because nothing threatens his inner equilibrium. He walks among storms untouched, not because storms do not exist, but because he has built shelter within. Understand that control is not conquest over others, it is self-containment. When angered, do not seek to dominate the offender, seek to master the reaction. The outer conflict will resolve itself when the inner one subsides. In business, in art, in leadership, your composure becomes contagion. Panic spreads faster than fire, but calmness extinguishes both. The leader who keeps his head when others lose theirs governs by example, not decree. Let us delve deeper into the law of emotional transmutation. Every negative emotion carries an equivalent positive potential when redirected. Fear transmuted becomes caution. Anger transmuted becomes resolve. Desire transmuted becomes creation. Energy never vanishes. It changes form under disciplined intent. Therefore, never waste time wishing emotion away. Channel it. The same steam that scalds can power an engine if confined and directed. Practice transmutation deliberately. When envy arises, convert it into admiration followed by emulation. When sorrow visits, transmute it into empathy that strengthens relationships. When disappointment strikes, forge patience. Each transformation refines character. The world applauds achievements but overlooks this invisible alchemy, the conversion of chaos into clarity within the human mind. Yet this is the birthplace of every outward triumph. There exists also the principle of constructive indifference. It is the art of refusing to assign emotional value to events prematurely. Success and failure alike are raw data. Judgment distorts them. The disciplined thinker observes outcomes as information, not identity. He asks, what does this teach? Not, what does this mean about me? Such neutrality conserves energy and accelerates learning. Indifference to praise or blame is not cynicism, it is mental efficiency. Remember, the emotion you feed becomes your master. The emotion you watch becomes your servant. Observation starves negative feeling of power. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you weaken the habit of reactivity and strengthen the habit of command. In time, command becomes your second nature. There are those who fear that detachment kills ambition. They believe emotional fire is necessary for achievement. They misunderstand fire. The purpose of emotional mastery is not to extinguish flame, but to control its direction. Controlled fire propels rockets. Uncontrolled fire consumes cities. Detachment gives you the lever to steer passion toward productivity. The calmest man often works the hardest, for his energy is not wasted on agitation. Let us now speak of the power of measured speech. Words are carriers of emotion. Careless speech is emotional leakage. Each unguarded word drains authority. The disciplined individual speaks after thought has settled, and therefore his words strike with precision. Observe those who wield influence. They speak less than others, but say more. Every syllable bears weight because it is born of composure. To govern speech is to govern consequence. Speech also reinforces autosuggestion. When you declare calmness, you train both conscious and subconscious minds in cooperation. The repeated affirmation, "I choose response over reaction," ingrains a new identity. Identity dictates behavior. Eventually, your automatic reaction becomes measured response. This is the victory of habit over impulse, achieved through repetition with emotional detachment. Now let us examine the principle of inner economy. Your mental energy is finite each day. Waste none on resentment or regret. Resentment drains the future. Regret chains you to the past. Detachment releases both. Successful minds invest emotion only where return is certain on growth, purpose, and gratitude. Emotional thrift builds fortune faster than financial thrift, for emotion is the currency of action. Gratitude itself is a form of emotional discipline. It is deliberate focus on sufficiency amidst desire. Gratitude detaches you from lack and aligns you with abundance. A grateful mind cannot harbor resentment. The two frequencies cannot coexist. Practice gratitude daily, not as sentiment, but as strategy. Each acknowledgement of progress calms the desire for comparison. The calm mind competes only with its own potential. Next, consider the principle of mental audit. Once a week, review your emotional expenditures. Ask yourself, where did I lose composure? Where did I invest feeling without return? Record, reflect, correct. Awareness, repetition, adjustment, these are the mechanics of mastery. What accounting is to finance, reflection is to character. The emotionally disciplined man lives by a code. No reaction without reflection, no decision without detachment. He understands that every response either strengthens or weakens the habit of control. Therefore, he treats each encounter as practice. Minor irritations become training for major challenges. The small victories of self-control accumulate into monumental power. Let us introduce the principle of mental hierarchy. Thoughts occupy ranks. At the top stand governing ideals, purpose, integrity, discipline. Beneath them march subordinate emotions. When subordinates revolt, chaos reigns. The wise commander reinstates order by reaffirming ideals. Each morning, remind yourself of your governing principles until emotion salutes and obeys. Discipline is not suppression of troops. It is alignment of forces. You may ask, how long must I practice detachment? The answer, until calmness becomes reflex. Mastery is not achieved by force of will, but by constancy of practice. Every repetition rewires the nervous system toward steadiness. Persistence transforms deliberate control into natural composure. The mind, trained long enough, responds to chaos with clarity automatically. Then, and only then, are you free. Freedom is not the absence of rules, it is mastery within them. The disciplined pilot is freer than the reckless one because he understands the laws of flight. The disciplined thinker is freer than the impulsive one because he understands the laws of mind. Obedience to inner law creates outer liberty. At this level, you begin to sense the law of causative equilibrium. Each emotional surge demands a counterbalancing stillness to restore order. If you celebrate victory, return swiftly to humility. If you suffer defeat, return swiftly to poise. Extremes deplete power. Balance preserves it. The man who remains centered gathers strength from both success and failure. To him, gain and loss are teachers, not tyrants. Let us not forget the principle of purpose amplification. Goals gain strength when fueled by purpose because purpose converts effort into destiny. Without purpose, work is toil. With purpose, toil becomes worship. Purpose fuses intellect, emotion, and will into one unstoppable force. But purpose cannot burn bright without the wick of discipline and the oil of detachment. Together, they produce the steady flame that lights achievement's path. Purpose answers the question, why? Discipline answers how. Detachment answers who. The self that remains unchanged through both triumph and trial. Combine these answers, and you possess the formula for enduring greatness. There will be times when others misinterpret your composure as coldness, your detachment as disinterest, your patience as passivity. Let them. The opinions of those who do not rule themselves cannot rule you. You are not responsible for their perception. You are responsible for your precision. Continue your course in silence. The results will vindicate the method. When frustration visits, and it will remember this axiom, emotion cannot solve the problem it created. Step back, cool the mind, and reason from the principle rather than the mood. Moods pass, principles remain. Act from principle and outcomes align with law. Act from mood, and you become a leaf in the wind. You will find that emotional mastery grants not only success but serenity. Wealth without peace is burden, power without calm is peril. Detachment delivers both prosperity and composure, for it roots happiness in self-command rather than circumstance. The man who governs himself cannot be impoverished, for his wealth is internal. Finally, contemplate the principle of silent certainty. The highest form of confidence requires no announcement. It radiates quietly, as gravity does felt, not flaunted. Silent certainty arises when your inner world is organized around purpose. The emotionally undisciplined seek reassurance. The master radiates assurance. His stillness speaks, I know who I am, I know what I seek, and nothing external can alter either. Now, understand this. Mastery over emotion is not a solitary accomplishment. It is the foundation upon which every other success principle rests. Every decision you make, every opportunity you seize, every alliance you form is amplified or diminished by the quality of your inner governance. If your mind is restless, even the most promising path becomes treacherous. If your mind is disciplined, even the steepest climb becomes inevitable. Consider the entrepreneur who faces a market crash. The reactive mind panics, retreats, and forfeits opportunity. The disciplined mind observes, adjusts, and acts. The difference is not circumstance, it is command. Let us consider the principle of mental continuity. Every successful person knows that thought left unattended grows in power. A fleeting doubt repeated becomes belief. A fleeting aspiration repeated becomes reality. Detachment does not mean ignoring thoughts, it means directing them. Every morning, set your dominant thought. I am the master of my mind, the commander of my emotions, the architect of my destiny. Repeat it until your mind organizes itself around this central truth. Then let the world provide the details. Your task is not to manipulate reality, it is to embody certainty, and certainty will manifest naturally. When external events threaten to disrupt your calm, remember the law of response over reaction. The reaction is automatic, the response deliberate. Every great achievement rests on deliberate response. The world tempts you with provocation. The undisciplined man surrenders. The disciplined man observes, calculates, and deploys energy strategically. This is the apex of emotional discipline, to act from reason rather than impulse, from principle rather than provocation. Emotional detachment also refines your focus. A scattered mind is like a lens smeared with dust. It disperses light, and energy is wasted. The disciplined mind, detached from distractions and trivialities, concentrates all power on the objective. Desire focused through calmness produces magnetism. Effort guided by purpose produces momentum. Discipline shaped by detachment produces inevitability. The inner world orchestrates the outer. Like a conductor guiding an orchestra, every instrument precise, every note intentional. Let us revisit definiteness of purpose in this context. Purpose is the engine of progress, but emotional mastery is the steering mechanism. Without purpose, energy dissipates. Without control, purpose is compromised. Together, they produce unstoppable force. Every great leader, every innovator, every titan of industry has applied this formula, consciously or unconsciously. Know precisely what you want, govern your mind, command your emotion, and act without hesitation. There is no substitute for this combination. To achieve this mastery, practice daily vigilance over your internal state. Ask yourself, which thoughts are active within me? Which emotions do I carry from yesterday? Which attitudes will I entertain today? This self-audit is not indulgence, it is necessity. A mind unchecked is a mind enslaved. Each awareness, each correction, each choice strengthens the habit of command. Habit is the invisible muscle of success. Train it, and it lifts you effortlessly through life's challenges. Detachment also enhances your capacity for discernment. When emotion is uncontrolled, every offer, every opinion, every rumor, every opportunity appears urgent. You act on impulse and waste energy. The detached mind sees clearly which actions align with purpose, which people influence productivity, which words deserve response. This is why the truly successful appear selective. Even aloof, they are not disinterested. They are deliberate. Energy misapplied is lost forever. Energy applied with precision multiplies results exponentially. Understand that emotional mastery is cumulative. Each day's small victories compound. Each pause instead of reaction. Each choice instead of impulse. Each breath before word becomes a deposit in the account of permanent power. Like a river cutting through stone over centuries, repeated self-control shapes your destiny. Small acts repeated consistently yield monumental transformation. Consider now the law of mental substitution. You cannot remove fear, doubt, or anger by force. Attempting to suppress emotion merely stores energy that eventually erupts. True control requires replacement. Replace fear with courage, doubt with clarity, anger with resolve. The same energy that would debilitate you can instead fortify you. The disciplined mind is an alchemist, converting potential chaos into productive force. This brings us to the principle of progressive mastery. Emotional detachment is not a one-time victory. It is an ongoing evolution. Each challenge, each provocation, each unexpected event tests the structure of your inner kingdom. Practice deliberately in small matters so that when great trials arrive, control is second nature. The same hand that resists petty irritation today will remain steady through catastrophe tomorrow. Mastery is habit in motion, and habit is cultivated through repetition. Now, let us reflect on the principle of autonomous will. Your thoughts are your creation, your emotions are your instrument, your actions are your output. Nothing external compels you. Circumstances provoke, but they do not command. Your inner world is sovereign. When you accept this fully, you are liberated. You no longer permit the environment to dictate your energy. No criticism, no insult, no setback can derail you. You are the master, and your inner world the only throne that matters. This mastery cultivates silent confidence. When you move through life with calm authority, the world responds. You do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to prove to be respected. Composure attracts opportunity. Clarity draws allies. Self-possession manifests influence. Silent confidence is both shield and magnet. It protects while it attracts. Let us examine the synergy of purpose, discipline, and detachment. Purpose ignites, discipline guides, detachment sustains. Purpose is the arrow. Discipline is the bow. Detachment is the hand that holds the string without shaking. Together they deliver force with precision. Remove any element and the arrow misses. The world rewards mastery of all three. It punishes imbalance. Greatness is never accidental. It is deliberate, cultivated, and maintained through unwavering commitment to this triad. Do not mistake detachment for apathy. A detached mind is fully engaged but not enslaved. It participates without obsession, acts without agitation, and exerts influence without anxiety. This is the essence of leadership, the mark of genius, and the pathway to lasting achievement. The detached thinker commands life not through volume or violence, but through quiet authority. His results are inevitable because his energy is not dissipated on distraction. The culmination of these principles produces inner sovereignty. You become the ruler of your thoughts, the commander of your emotions, and the architect of your decisions. External circumstances bow to this authority because internal law governs all else. The storms of life may roar, yet the internally sovereign individual is calm. Criticism, insult, and misfortune are mere tests of consistency. Each handled correctly reinforces command. Each handled poorly diminishes it. Consistency is the measure of mastery. Now, hear this truth. Goals gain strength when fueled by purpose, disciplined action, and emotional mastery. A goal without emotional control is a candle in the wind. A goal without discipline is a horse without a rider. A goal without purpose is a rudderless ship. Combine them, and you forge an engine of destiny that moves inexorably toward fulfillment. The universe, impartial but obedient to law, aligns with the prepared mind. Every achievement in history was preceded by this formula. Men of vision, wealth, and influence did not rely on luck. They relied on mastery, mastery of thought, mastery of emotion, mastery of action. They understood that nothing external could create success. Success is born within. Fortune follows preparedness, and preparation follows self-control. Finally, I call upon you to act. Begin today to govern your inner world. Identify your purpose, fortify your discipline, cultivate detachment, and train your mind to respond, not react. Monitor your emotions, redirect them when necessary, and never allow external circumstances to dictate your energy. Repeat your affirmations, observe your habits, review your actions. Align every moment with the principles outlined. Do this relentlessly, daily, consciously, and without exception. And when the day comes that the outer world bends perfectly to your will, it will not surprise you. It will be the natural reflection of an inner order long established. Every triumph, every recognition, every opportunity will appear inevitable, not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you have become the master your circumstances obey. This is your inheritance. This is your responsibility. No one can do it for you. No circumstance can prevent it. The power resides within. Govern it wisely, and success is yours, unstoppable, undeniable, and permanent. You will find that as mastery deepens, peace follows. Calm confidence becomes second nature. Energy is conserved and multiplied. Life becomes an instrument of expression for your inner law. And in this state, you will know true freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from external control, freedom from distraction, and freedom to create your destiny with precision, power, and purpose. Step forward now and claim what is already yours. Align your purpose with discipline. Steer emotion with detachment. Think deliberately. Act decisively. Respond wisely. Observe faithfully. Persist relentlessly. For in doing so, you do not merely achieve, you embody greatness itself. And so, let every thought, every breath, every action be a declaration. I am master of my mind. I am captain of my emotions. I am architect of my destiny. Goals gain strength when fueled by purpose, and I claim them now. Let this truth settle deep, not as philosophy, not as suggestion, but as command. You are the cause, the world is the effect. Stand in the unshakable conviction that every principle of success resides in your inner world. When you govern it with precision, discipline, and detachment, the outer world obeys. The path is yours, the power is yours, the results are inevitable, you are ready, you are prepared, you are unstoppable.